They often pass by without notice. Moments so small, so ordinary, that the world moves on as if they never existed. And yet, there they are, quietly shaping something inside. Have you ever felt that? The way a single breath, a single glance, or even a pause in conversation can hold a weight you cannot name? It is in these moments that life quietly nudges us, asks something of us without ever raising its voice. You might notice it first as a flutter in your chest, a restless stirring you cannot place. Perhaps it is the way someone's words linger, soft and strange, or how a silence stretches just a little longer than you expect. It is neither threatening nor demanding, yet it pulls at you, asking, what will you do with this space? Will you rush to fill it, or will you sit quietly and feel it? And in that pause, you begin to notice the small things you never did before. The way light touches the edge of a wall, soft and unassuming. The subtle tilt of a flower bending toward the sun, as if listening to some unseen voice. The sound of your own breath, steady and certain, reminding you that even when the world is loud, there is a rhythm inside you that cannot be disturbed. It is here, in these unnoticed fragments, that something begins to awaken a quiet awareness that life is happening not just outside, but within you. Sometimes they appear in these moments. They do not speak aloud, yet their presence is felt. Perhaps it is a look that carries more meaning than any words could hold. Perhaps it is an absence, a space they leave behind, that calls your attention to what is truly yours. You may not understand them at first. Their actions may puzzle you, or their silence may unsettle you. But even in confusion, there is a kind of clarity, a way that the soul recognizes the truth of what is happening. That in the quiet, you are being invited to witness something beyond the ordinary, something that does not demand applause or recognition. Have you noticed how time behaves in these moments? It slows, but not sharply. It drifts softly, like mist over a still pond. Every small sound becomes meaningful. Every slight movement draws your attention, and as you watch, without thinking, without judging, you feel something shift inside. A recognition, perhaps, that the world is always larger than the immediate and the obvious, that the tiniest act, the faintest motion, can carry weight far greater than you might have imagined. And yet, it is not always easy to stay here. The mind urges you forward, toward action, toward response, toward understanding. But there is wisdom in resisting. There is strength in holding still, in letting the moment speak without interference. How often do we rush, eager to label, to answer, to explain? And how often, if we pause, if we simply breathe and notice, do we find that the moment has already offered its gift without demand? You might feel a subtle tension as you sit with it, a question that lingers, soft and persistent. What is mine to see, and what is only passing through? What can I hold, and what must I release? In this gentle questioning, there is no pressure, no urgency, only the quiet understanding that life is always unfolding, quietly, patiently, whether we notice or not. And in noticing, we begin to understand something essential, that our attention is sacred, that our presence alone can be an act of deep witnessing. Perhaps you lean back slightly, take a longer breath, and feel the rhythm of your heart in the silence. Perhaps you let your mind wander lightly through the spaces between sounds, between thoughts, between what is and what might be. And as you do, you begin to see that these small, unseen moments are not empty. They are filled with a subtle meaning, a gentle insistence that life is more than reaction, more than noise, more than the hurried seeking of answers. There is a depth here in these quiet fragments that asks only to be noticed. And in noticing, it transforms. And so you remain, for now, quietly aware, not needing to understand fully, not needing to respond immediately, simply letting the moment exist, letting yourself exist within it. And in that stillness, you might feel the faint stirrings of something deeper, an awareness that the unseen is often the most powerful, that the softest moments carry the weight of eternity, and that even the smallest act of observing is an act of profound presence. It is in this way that life begins quietly, softly, not with a shout, but with a tender invitation to simply notice, to simply feel, to simply be. And when you allow yourself to do this, even for a few breaths, even for a single passing moment, you discover a truth that is both gentle and enduring, that every small, unseen moment holds the possibility of change, and that in the silence we begin to know ourselves. If you like, I can expand the entire 9-section video into a full 15 to 18-minute reflective script in the same style, ready for voiceover, keeping the emotional pacing and soft moral storytelling intact. Do you want me to do that next? There is a subtle stirring that rises within, quiet at first, like the soft rustle of leaves before the wind fully comes. You may not notice it at once, yet it is there, shifting, pulling at the edges of your thoughts. Have you felt it? That restless tension that seems to exist between what you see and what you feel, between what happens and the quiet voice inside that asks, why does this matter so much? It is not loud, this feeling, nor does it demand immediate attention. It whispers, a faint unease that sits beneath the surface, as if the heart is reminding you that something is unsettled. You may feel it in your chest, or perhaps in the hollow of your stomach. A gentle tightening that asks for recognition. And yet, what does one do with such a stirring? How can it be addressed when it has no name, no shape, no clear path forward? They move through the world in ways that awaken it. Their words, soft or sharp, carry a weight you did not expect. And though you may wish to respond, to speak, to act, there is a quiet hesitancy, a sense that to react too quickly would be to disturb something delicate within. And so you pause, you feel, you notice, the unrest grows, but not in anger, not in fear. It grows in the patient awareness of your own heartbeat, of your own mind turning slowly, circling the edges of what has been said and what remains unspoken. Sometimes it feels almost like standing at the edge of a river you cannot see across. The currents are there, flowing and shifting, yet you cannot know where they will lead. And in that uncertainty, a small tension arises. It is not pain, not yet. It is simply the feeling of being unsettled, aware, awake to the faint stirrings that move quietly through the spaces between what is said and what is left behind. Have you ever wondered how it is that a single glance, a single tone, can stir the heart so profoundly, without leaving any trace outside yourself? The mind naturally wants to chase it away. It urges you to act, to speak, to quiet the inner ripples that make the day feel heavier. But there is wisdom in letting it linger, in allowing the feeling to exist without immediate explanation. For in this subtle unrest, something begins to shift. You start to recognize that the stirring is not an enemy, nor a mistake. It is a signal, a quiet teacher that asks you to pay attention, not to others, but to yourself. And yet, being still is not simple. The temptation to move, to respond, to reclaim some sense of control is strong. How often do we seek to calm the waves by striking at the water rather than waiting for the current to settle on its own? And how often do we forget that true understanding grows in the quiet spaces, in the gentle observation, in the patience to feel the stirring fully before it passes? You may notice, as you sit with it, that the unrest has layers. One part is curiosity, another part is doubt, another part is fear. And they do not demand to be separated or solved immediately. They simply ask for acknowledgement, for a moment of presence. And when you give that presence, when you allow yourself to feel without pushing away or rushing toward an answer, a small clarity begins to emerge. The tension does not vanish, but it becomes something different, less like a burden, and more like a signal of life moving quietly through you, shaping the way you see and understand the world. There is a strange comfort in this awareness, a recognition that not every stirring must lead to action, that some unease is a mirror, reflecting a deeper truth, a deeper need for attention, patience, and reflection. And as you allow it to exist, you may notice a subtle shift in your breathing, a softening in your chest, a gentle settling of the mind. Not a resolution, not a solution, but a quiet acceptance of what is, as it is, without demand or judgment. Perhaps, then, the true gift of this inner stirring is the invitation it offers to become more aware, to feel more deeply, and to understand that not all responses need to be spoken, that some lessons are learned in the silence, And some strength is found not in action, but in the quiet acknowledgement of what is happening within. And as you sit there in the gentle unfolding of this feeling, you may begin to see that the unrest is not a threat, but a doorway. A doorway to understanding yourself, to noticing the quiet currents of life, and to discovering that even the softest stirrings have something meaningful to teach. It asks nothing of you but your presence, and in that, you begin to sense that life is as much about feeling as it is about doing, as much about watching as it is about speaking, and as much about stillness as it is about movement. And in feeling it fully, in letting it move through you without interruption, the quiet begins to teach, and you begin to learn the gentle power of being awake within yourself. Sometimes, even when we try to be still and quiet, they do not understand. Their words, their glances, their small actions may seem harmless to them, yet to us they carry weight. Have you ever felt the strange ache of being misunderstood, even when your heart meant only calm or kindness? It is a subtle pain, not sharp or loud, but persistent. It lingers in the corners of the mind, a quiet echo that follows you through the day, softly asking, why do they see me this way? They do not know the depth of the silence you carry, the careful thought behind your every gesture, the intention hidden beneath each quiet word. And so, they misread it, they twist it, or perhaps simply overlook it, and the result is a shadow that rests upon your spirit. Yet, there is no anger here, only a gentle recognition that the world cannot always see what is inside you. And is it not curious that sometimes the truth of a heart is invisible to those who look upon it most closely? You may feel the subtle stirring of defensiveness rise within, a quiet urge to explain, to clarify, to reclaim the meaning that has been lost. But even in that moment, a deeper part of you notices that explanation will not always reach them. They are not ready, or perhaps they are unable, to perceive the stillness, the careful restraint, the thought that has gone into your silence. And so you sit with it, you feel it. You watch it ripple softly across your chest, across your mind, without moving too quickly to correct it. It is strange, the way misunderstanding can feel both heavy and light. Heavy, because it touches the tender parts of us we wish others could see. Light, because it asks nothing of us but awareness. Have you ever paused and simply felt the quiet ache of being misread without attempting to change it? To allow it to exist like a shadow in the corner of the room, neither denying it nor clinging to it. There is a strange kind of wisdom in this, a recognition that not all perceptions are within our control, and that sometimes the act of holding our own heart steady is enough. They may speak in ways that are small, seemingly insignificant, yet they press upon the soul. Their misjudgments, their assumptions, their quiet misunderstandings, they come and go, and yet each leaves a trace. And in the stillness, you notice it. You notice the faint pull of irritation, the soft whisper of doubt, the flutter of hesitation. It is not a storm, not yet. It is a gentle test of patience, a quiet invitation to remain grounded in yourself, to feel without reaction, to observe without rushing toward defense. Sometimes the most profound realization comes not from what they do, but from how you respond. You may sit in silence, feeling the subtle discomfort, and begin to see something within yourself that was hidden before. Perhaps a steadiness you did not know you possessed. Perhaps a strength that arises not from confrontation, but from simply being. The quiet mind notices the difference between the urge to answer and the wisdom of waiting, between the desire to explain and the deeper understanding that some things cannot be explained. And yet, it is not always easy to remain unmoved. The mind naturally seeks clarity. It asks, why do they see me this way? Why do they misunderstand what I hold dear? And in the asking, you may feel a flicker of frustration, a small tension that whispers to be released. But in these moments, there is also the chance to practice a gentle discipline, a tender recognition that the misreading of others does not diminish the truth inside you, that your calm, your quiet presence, your restraint are not contingent upon their understanding. You may breathe slowly, feeling the rise and fall of your chest, feeling the quiet hum of life within. You may notice the small sensations that ground you, the weight of your body against the surface. Beneath you, the subtle sounds of the world around you, the faint rhythm of your own heartbeat. And as you do, you may begin to sense a deeper truth that being misunderstood is not a failure, nor is it a punishment. It is merely part of the rhythm of life, a soft reminder that the world moves at its own pace and that all inner stillness does not require their recognition. And in that understanding, a gentle relief arises. The ache does not vanish entirely, but it softens, becomes less sharp, less pressing. You begin to see that your calm, your silence, your thoughtful presence are yours to hold, regardless of how they perceive it. And as you sit with this, quietly observing both the misreading and your own response, you may feel a subtle shift, a realization that the deepest understanding, the truest respect, begins within. That even when the world misunderstands, the soul can remain steady, unshaken, quietly whole. Perhaps then the gift of being misunderstood is the chance to witness yourself with honesty and compassion, to notice the tender spaces within, to hold them gently, and to recognize that your inner truth needs no approval to exist. And in this quiet witnessing, you may begin to feel something soft, almost like a light, spreading through the stillness, a calm, unspoken dignity that rises from the heart that does not need to be seen to know it is real. Alone, in the quiet of a room or a moment that stretches gently between one thought and the next, you begin to feel the weight of your own presence. It is subtle at first, like the faint pressure of the wind against a window, unnoticed until you pause and notice it. Have you ever sat so still that the world feels distant, as if it continued on without you, while your own thoughts and feelings take center stage? It is here, in this quiet, that the mind begins to notice patterns it had overlooked, small repetitions of feeling, small rhythms of thought that move beneath the surface. You may hear the soft echo of their words, the faint tug of old discomforts, the memories of moments that seem to pass unnoticed. And in this stillness, a clarity begins to emerge, not loud or sudden, but soft and patient. You start to see the ways you react before you even know you are reacting. The ways your heart tenses, your mind prepares, your spirit leans in or pulls back. There is a strange fascination in noticing these things. How easily we move through life without seeing the quiet stirrings inside us. How much is shaped by impulses we rarely examine. Sometimes it feels as though your own soul is a mirror, reflecting not only what has happened, but what you might have done differently or what you might do next. And yet, this reflection is not judgmental. It does not demand that you change or that you fix anything immediately. It simply shows you what exists, patiently and faithfully, like the surface of a calm lake reflecting the sky above. What do you see in that reflection? Perhaps the tension that lingers after being misunderstood, the subtle unrest that rises when you feel the stirrings within, perhaps even the quiet strength that has been growing unnoticed through all these moments. There is a gentle rhythm to observing yourself in this way, breathing slowly, feeling your chest rise and fall, letting each heartbeat be a reminder that you are here, that you exist fully in this quiet space. And as you notice, you may start to see the patterns of your reaction to the world, the quickening of your thoughts when something unsettles you, the tug toward explanation or defense, the small flashes of emotion that rise and fade without notice. To see these things without judgment is a rare gift, a gentle invitation to understand yourself more fully, to honor what is alive within you. Sometimes the stillness is interrupted by memories, by small questions that doctor. And why did I feel that way? Why did they act as they did? Why do I respond in certain ways? And yet, there is no urgency to answer these questions. They hover, soft and patient, waiting for your attention without demanding it. The act of noticing, of simply being aware, is itself enough. There is wisdom in allowing the mind to observe without interference, in letting the quiet reveal the truth of your own heart, slowly, gently, as it will. You may notice that the sensations of your body, the rhythms of your own breathing, become anchors in this process. The rise and fall of your chest, the weight of your limbs, the gentle warmth of your hands, all of these are soft reminders that you are present. And presence itself is a teacher. It shows you the ways you have held yourself tightly or lightly, how your emotions flow and settle, how your inner landscape shifts when you allow it to simply exist. Have you ever realized that the quietest moments reveal more than the loudest ones? That the heart speaks in whispers and the mind listens in stillness? In this quiet observation, a subtle transformation begins. The stirrings that once felt urgent or confusing soften. The unrest that seemed to press upon your chest becomes a gentle rhythm, something you can feel and acknowledge without being carried away by it. And slowly, you may begin to recognize a deeper pattern, that the mind and heart are not enemies, that the impulses to react are not weaknesses, but gentle signals that I invite understanding, that call for presence and awareness. And so you sit quietly, letting each thought and feeling move through you without interruption. You notice the delicate textures of your own inner life, the patterns that repeat, the rhythms that ebb and flow. In this space, there is no need for action, no need for explanation, no need for anything other than awareness. And in the patient observation of your own heart, you begin to sense a subtle kind of freedom. A freedom that comes not from the outside world, not from approval or recognition, but from the simple act of seeing yourself clearly, of feeling the stirrings within and allowing them to exist without judgment. Here, in the quiet, there is a mirror of your own being. It does not demand answers, nor does it offer applause. It simply reflects what is there, gently, patiently, timelessly. And as you watch yourself, as you witness your own inner currents and quiet patterns, you may begin to understand something essential, that strength does not always come from action, that clarity does not always come from noise, and that the deepest understanding arises in the still, patient observation of one's own heart. There comes a moment, quiet and soft, when you realize that not every impulse needs to be followed, that not every word whispered or thrown in your direction demands an answer. Have you felt it? That gentle pause, where the mind catches itself before it reacts, where the heart hesitates and waits. In T moment, something begins to shift. A small, quiet power stirs, not loud or brash, but steady, like a flame that does not need to roar to exist. They may provoke, or speak without thought, or act in ways that tug at your patience. And yet, in the space between their actions and your response, there is a choice. You may move toward them, reply, explain, defend, or you may remain still, breathing, feeling the rise and fall of your own chest, letting the silence hold its place. And in that choice, a subtle strength is born. It does not announce itself, nor does it demand recognition. It simply is. There is a soft clarity in understanding that reaction is optional, that words spoken in haste, or gestures made without care, do not have to shape the calm within you. And the act of not answering, of not feeding the small fire with your own energy, is not weakness. It is a quiet discipline, a gentle cultivation of inner steadiness. Have you ever noticed how the world seems less heavy when you do not rush to respond? When you allow a pause to settle between what is said and what you might do, and in that pause, something subtle begins to unfold. You feel your heart beat, steady and sure. You feel the rhythm of your own thoughts, no longer racing to catch up or defend. There is a soft power in simply being present, in letting the moment exist without interference. It is not the kind of power that is shouted from rooftops. It is a gentle, unshakable kind of presence, the kind that does not need acknowledgement to be real. Sometimes the temptation to react is strong. A small voice rises in the chest, urging you to explain, to correct, to claim what is yours. But even in that urging, there is an opportunity to notice, to observe, to feel the pull without yielding to it. What would happen if you did not answer? What would happen if you allowed the silence to hold its ground? And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the answer comes. The world may continue as it always does, but you remain whole, undisturbed, quietly strong. There's a lesson in restraint that cannot be learned quickly. It arrives slowly, in the gentle repetition of these moments, each one a small choice not to be carried away by impulse. The strength of the heart is measured not by the fire it kindles in others, but by the calm it preserves within itself. And as you sit with this, quietly aware, you begin to sense that the very act of choosing silence. Overreaction is an act of care for yourself, for the space around you, and for the subtle currents of life that move between words and deeds. You may notice a soft lightness rising, a quiet relief in the chest, as if the weight of unnecessary conflict has been lifted. And in that lightness, a small dignity emerges. It is not loud or proud. It does not announce itself. It simply exists, steady and gentle, like a tree rooted in still earth. It asks nothing of anyone. It is simply a presence, calm and certain, that cannot be shaken by the passing scent. Orms of words or actions. Perhaps the most surprising part is how this stillness transforms your perception. You begin to see the small provocations, the subtle irritations, not as attacks, but as opportunity to exercise patience, to observe the heart's response, and to discover a quiet power that lies within. It is not something that can be measured or pointed to, yet its presence is undeniable. You feel it in the ease of your breathing, in the quiet settling of your mind, in the gentle unfolding of awareness that comes when you choose not to react. And so, in the stillness between what is offered and what is returned, you find something profound, a strength that does not shout, a dignity that does not demand, a calm that does not need approval. It is a power of the quiet, the steady, the gentle, the unseen. And in this choice, over and over again, you begin to understand that the heart is strongest not when it strikes, but when it rests, not when it argues, but when it waits, not when it moves, but when it holds. And as you sit there, in the soft unfolding of this understanding, the world continues around you. Words rise and fall. Actions come and go, yet inside, a quiet light remains. It does not flicker or falter. It simply is, steady, patient, unshaken. And in that gentle power, you begin to know something essential. That silence can hold more strength than noise. That patience can carry more weight than reaction. And that the heart, when allowed to rest in itself, is quietly, unshakably whole. Each time you choose to hold back, to remain quiet. When words rise like restless birds in your chest, something small but profound grows inside you. Have you ever noticed it? The way restraint feels heavier than action at first, and yet, in its quiet way, it nourishes a part of you that is rarely seen. It is not the kind of growth that announces itself. There is no applause, no visible proof. It simply takes root, softly, patiently, like a seed buried in the earth, waiting for its time to bloom. You may feel a subtle shift in the body, a relaxation in the shoulders, a softening of the chest, as the tension of needing to respond slowly fades. And with it comes a quiet respect for yourself, an awareness that your actions, or in this case, your inaction, are choices made from a place of presence, not impulse. Each small moment of holding still, of observing without interference, builds a foundation that is invisible to the world, yet deeply real within you. Sometimes it feels almost as if the world expects a response. That movement is the natural order of things. And yet, in these quiet acts of restraint, you begin to see another order, one that flows not from reaction, but from calm, steady observation. Have you ever felt the subtle pride of knowing that you did not need to defend yourself, that you did not need to explain or justify, because your inner understanding is enough? It is a soft pride, not loud or boastful, but it rests in the chest L. Like a quiet flame, steady and enduring, there's a rhythm to this growth, a pattern that repeats itself in gentle waves. With each choice not to react, the heart learns patience. With each moment of calm observation, the mind becomes quieter, more centered, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, a sense of dignity begins to emerge. It is not granted by others, nor is it dependent on their recognition. It is earned in the quiet spaces, in the small decisions to hold your peace when every instinct urges you to act. You may notice that restraint changes the way you see yourself. Actions that once seemed urgent, conflicts that once seemed unbearable, now appear less commanding. You feel the quiet power of your own being, unshaken by misunderstanding or provocation. And as you sit with this awareness, you begin to sense the deeper truth, that self-respect is not given by others. It is grown slowly in the soil of patience, watered by the steady hand of silence. There's a beauty in this kind of growth. It is gentle, almost imperceptible at first, You may not notice it day by day. Yet when you pause and reflect, you realize how far you have come. The subtle steadiness of your heart, the calm clarity of your mind, the quiet strength of your presence, all of these are fruits of the moments when you chose restraint over reaction, silence over impulse, observation over judgment. Each act, small and unseen, has nurtured something deeply lasting within you. And there is a freedom in this you. Understanding. Not the loud freedom of rushing forward or proving yourself, but the quiet freedom of being untethered from the need for constant approval or validation. You realize that the world's judgments, its words, its small provocations, no longer hold sway over the core of who you are. The inner self, cultivated in stillness and patience, has become a sanctuary, a place where your dignity is unshaken and your strength is silent but certain. Perhaps the most delicate part of this growth is how natural it feels once you begin to recognize it. It is not forced, nor does it require effort beyond noticing and choosing. Each decision to hold back, to observe, to stay calm, becomes part of the rhythm of your being. And in this rhythm, a deep peace arises, a sense that you are whole, not because of what you have done outwardly, but because of the quiet discipline and respect you have given yourself within. And so you sit, feeling the soft strength in your chest, the gentle steadiness in your mind. You notice how far patience can carry the heart, how much dignity can grow in silence, how much clarity can emerge when the need to react is set aside. You begin to understand that this is not a fleeting lesson, nor a temporary comfort. It is a quiet transformation, a gentle and lasting cultivation of the self that will remain even when the world moves on, even when misunderstanding and provocation come again. In these quiet moments, as you breathe slowly and notice the stillness inside, you sense that the work of restraint has given something precious, the soft, steady power of self-respect, grown without noise, nurtured without force, and rooted deeply within. It is yours entirely, and it will carry you silently and gently through every passing moment. There is a quiet ripple that moves through the heart when patience is chosen over impulse. Have you felt it? A small, almost invisible shift that begins when you do not react. When you allow the world to move around you without disturbance. It is subtle, like the soft spreading of water when a stone is dropped into a still pond. You may not see it immediately, and yet its effect is real, unfolding slowly, quietly, shaping the contours of your inner being in ways you cannot measure. They may continue as they always do, unaware of the changes taking place within you. Their words may rise and fall, their actions may come and go, yet in the gentle acceptance of stillness, something shifts. The energy that might have been spent in reaction, in explanation, in defense, begins to flow inward. It nourishes a calmness, a steadiness, a quiet dignity that is untouched by the noise around it. And in that inward movement you feel the faint, almost imperceptible power of restraint. It is not forceful. It does not command attention or demand acknowledgement. It simply exists, like a river carving stone over many years, patient, steady, inevitable. And as you sit with this awareness, you notice how the small acts of restraint ripple outward in ways unseen. Perhaps a word left unsaid prevents tension from rising. Perhaps a soft smile, given instead of anger, smooths a moment that might have been sharp. Perhaps the very act of remaining calm shifts the atmosphere in ways that will only reveal themselves long after the moment has passed. There is a strange beauty in this. The world does not applaud these small ripples. They go unnoticed by those around you. And yet, their effect is real. Have you ever wondered how often the quiet, gentle actions, the ones that require patience, that demand restraint, that ask you to hold your own fire, shape the world without leaving a trace in the eyes of others, perhaps more than we ever realize? And in noticing this, you begin to understand that strength is not always loud, that courage is not always declared, that influence does not require speech or action. Sometimes it is enough to be the calm in the midst of chaos, the quiet presence that does not need recognition to exist fully. And as you feel this, a subtle shift occurs in your body, in your chest, in your mind. A lightness, almost imperceptible, rises, a sense that you are not carried away by every disturbance, that you are anchored in something deeper, something steady, something unseen. Sometimes the ripple feels so small that it is almost imperceptible. You may doubt whether it exists at all, and yet, if you pay attention, you begin to see its effects not as grand gestures, not as apla, use or praise, but in the soft easing of tension, in the gentle settling of your own heart, in the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the world's stirrings no longer dictate your own calm. How strange it is that the softest acts can carry the greatest weight, that the quietest moments can hold the deepest power. And so you sit, breathing slowly, feeling the gentle movement within, sensing the way your own restraint has shaped something that is both unseen and real. You begin to notice the subtle changes in yourself, the steadiness of thought, the clarity of perception, the gentle unfolding of patience as it moves through the spaces between impulse and action. These are not dramatic, and yet they are profound. They are the hidden currents that shape your inner world, that teach you the depth of your own presence. Perhaps the most remarkable part is how natural it begins to feel. The moments of patience, the small acts of restraint, the gentle ripple of calm, they do not require effort once you have practiced them. They become part of your rhythm, part of the quiet pattern of your being, and in this rhythm there is freedom. Freedom from the tug of unnecessary conflict. Freedom from the weight of reaction. Freedom from the expectation that every disturbance must be met. And in that freedom, there is peace, soft and unassuming, yet undeniable in its presence. And so the ripple continue quietly, gently, spreading without noise, shaping without demand, teaching without words. You sit, aware of their subtle movement, feeling the soft power of restraint, the quiet strength of patience, the gentle wisdom of knowing that the calm you hold within touches the world in ways that are unseen but deeply real. And in this quiet understanding, you begin to feel something profound, that the most lasting influence comes not from action, but from stillness, not from noise, but from presence, not from striving, but from the gentle unfolding of restraint. They fade from thought eventually. The sharpness of their words, the subtle provocations, the misunderstandings, all of it drifts away like clouds across a quiet sky. And in that space, a new awareness settles. Have you felt it, the calm that comes when the world no longer presses upon the chest, when the echoes of what might have been said or done are softened by time and stillness? It is not loud. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, like a gentle tide that moves through the soul, steady and unhurried. Alone with your thoughts, you begin to notice how much of life was carried in tension, in response, in the need to explain or defend. And now, without effort, without struggle, you feel the subtle release. The chest softens, the shoulders ease. The mind, which once raced to follow every disturbance, begins to quiet. What is it about silence that allows the heart to rest so completely? Perhaps it is because in stillness, there is nothing to fix, nothing to prove, nothing to chase. You may reflect on the moments when you chose patience over reaction, when you allowed restraint to shape your presence. Each of those small choices now feels like a stone placed carefully along the path of your inner life. They are not heavy. They do not burden you. They form a gentle foundation, a quiet architecture of dignity and self-respect that cannot be shaken by passing words or fleeting opinions. And as you notice it, a soft warmth spreads through the chest, a recognition of the strength that grows quietly within, unseen yet certain. There is a strange clarity in this quiet. The world continues, of course, and they may still act, still speak, still misread, but their actions no longer disturb the center of you. Have you observed the freedom that comes when the outer world cannot pull at the stillness inside? It is subtle at first, like the light of dawn filtering through a window, barely noticed but slowly filling the room. And in this freedom, you begin to feel a profound sense of wholeness, a sense that your calm is not dependent on anyone else, that it is born within, tended quietly, patiently, like a flame sheltered from the wind. You may hear your own breathing and realize how soft it has become, how steady. Each inhale and exhale is a gentle reminder that life moves on, that disturbance comes and goes, but the quiet strength you hold within remains. And in this, you notice the dignity of the heart that does not need to prove itself. How curious it is that true respect self-respect. Tea does not rise from the applause of others, nor from being understood, but from the patient, quiet tending of one's own spirit. Sometimes, the mind drifts back to those earlier stirrings, the moments of unease, the gentle tensions, the small ripples of impatience or unrest, and you observe them without judgment, without need to change or correct them. They are like leaves floating on a calm river, passing, moving, existing, but no longer disturbing the still water beneath. And as you watch, you realize that this ability to remain calm, to let the currents of life move around you without being swept away, is one of the greatest gifts of all. There is a softness in your awareness now, a gentleness toward yourself. You see how far patience has carried you, how restraint has nurtured a quiet power that does not need recognition. You feel the dignity of holding your center, the subtle satisfaction of knowing that your calm is unshakable, not because the world has been quiet, but because you have tended your own stillness. And in this tenderness, there is also clarity, that the world's disturbances can pass without leaving permanent marks, that you are not defined by their actions, that the heart can remain undisturbed even as the currents flow around it. And so you sit, breathing slowly, feeling the soft pulse of life within, aware of the quiet dignity that has grown through patience, through restraint, through observing rather than reacting. The calm is not an absence, it is a presence, steady, gentle, and certain. It does not shout, it does not demand, it does not prove anything. It simply is. And in this, you feel a profound peace, a sense of being fully held, fully present, fully yourself. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this quiet awareness is its subtle permanence. The world may continue to move, and they may still come and go, yet this calm, this gentle strength remains. It does not need the world to acknowledge it. It does not need their understanding. It rests quietly, softly, like a light in the heart that no storm can extinguish. A still center that is unshakable, unbroken, whole. In the quiet of your own presence, you begin to feel a deep settling, a softness that comes when the world's noise fades into the background. Have you ever noticed how the heart feels when it is left undisturbed, when it is not pulled by expectation or misunderstanding or the need to prove itself? There is a certain clarity in this stillness, a gentle knowing that the self does not need permission to exist, that the soul does not need recognition to be whole. You may sense a lightness in the chest, a soft expansion in the ribs, as if the act of simply being has opened a small space inside that was once crowded with reaction, doubt, or tension. And in this space, you notice the rhythm of your own heartbeat, steady and calm. A quiet companion that had remained faithful through every passing stir, every moment of restraint, every gentle act of patience. How remarkable it is that such small, quiet choices have shaped something so enduring within, something that does not falter, even when the world presses close. There is a certain dignity in knowing that your strength has grown without announcement, that your calm has been cultivated quietly, without demand or recognition. You may reflect on the path that has led here, the moments when you felt unrest, the time you were misunderstood, the subtle currents of emotion that rose and faded within you. And now, in the gentle reflection, you see how each of these moments contributed to something lasting. Each pause, each breath, each act of restraint has nourished a calm that is not fragile, but unshakable. And in this awareness, there is a softness, a tenderness toward yourself. You notice how far patience has carried you, how the quiet choice to observe rather than react has shaped a gentle power that belongs entirely to you. It does not seek attention. It does not demand approval. It does not need to be seen. It simply exists, steady and certain, like a wellspring hidden beneath the surface of a still lake. Have you felt the profound peace that comes from knowing that your inner strength is yours alone, untouched by the judgments or misunderstandings of others? There is a strange kind of freedom in this. Freedom from the expectation to act, freedom from the need to defend, freedom from the small urgencies that once tugged at your heart. The disturbances of the world may come and go, yet they no longer disturb the quiet within. And as you breathe slowly, feeling the gentle rise and fall of your chest, you begin to sense that the heart's true power lies not in outward action, not in speech, not in proving, but in the calm, patient presence that has grown through restraint, through reflection, through still observation. Sometimes the mind drifts back to the earlier stirrings, to the moments of unrest, the gentle tensions, the subtle tests of patience, and you notice them without urgency, without judgment. They are like distant echoes, soft and faded, reminders of the journey that brought you here. And in watching them, you realize that they no longer control you. They do not command your response. They are part of the rhythm of life, passing as all things pass. Why? The calm you have cultivated remains steady and enduring. You may feel a quiet light in the chest, a warmth that spreads softly through the body, a gentle affirmation of the dignity you hold. It is not loud, it does not boast, it does not need acknowledgement. It simply rests in you, quietly, like a candle that has been lit and will continue to glow without interruption. And in this quiet flame, you sense the essence of who you are, patient, steady, observant, whole, not defined by the disturbance outside, not diminished by misunderstanding, not shaken by the passing current of the world. Perhaps the most profound realization is that this calm, this gentle power, is not temporary. It does not rise and fall with the whims of the world. It is steady because it has been nurtured from within, tended carefully through each moment of silence, each act of patience, each gentle choice to hold still and observe rather than act. And as you sit here, breathing slowly, feeling the soft pulse of life within, you notice a quiet joy that is unlike any outward happiness. It is a joy that rests in the certainty of being whole, unshaken, unbroken. And so you remain quietly present, aware of the depth of your own heart, of the strength that has grown through silence and restraint. The world may continue, they may come and go, and yet your inner self rests in its own light, calm and certain. And in this quiet presence, you feel a deep, unspoken truth that the soul, when allowed to simply be, carries a strength and a peace that no disturbance can touch, a gentle and enduring power that belongs entirely to you, serene and unshakable,